The afternoon sun was burning across the dry land of Texas. Dust floated in the air as a long road stretched toward the horizon, where the wind carried the smell of hay and earth. A woman named Clara walked slowly along the side of the road, holding a little girl's hand while two boys followed behind her. Their clothes were old and their shoes were thin from too much walking. Clara's eyes were tired, but she tried to smile for her children. For 3 days they had been walking from town to town, searching for work, food, or even a safe place to sleep. Her youngest, Lila, was only 5 and kept asking, "Mommy, are we going home now?" But Clara had no answer. Their home had been taken after her husband lost his job and then left without a word. Since then, she had carried her children and her hopes wherever her feet could take them. That day, the road was empty except for the distant sound of an engine. Clara turned her head and saw an old but well-kept wagon truck coming their way. The paint on it was shining and the wheels looked strong. It was the kind of truck owned by someone who had no worries about food or money. As it got closer, Clara felt nervous. She pulled her children closer to her side, not knowing what kind of man might be driving. The truck slowed down beside them, and a man leaned out of the window. He looked to be in his late 50s, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a clean white shirt and a cowboy hat that looked expensive. His face was calm but serious, and his eyes were the kind that noticed everything. "You folks okay?" he asked in a deep voice. Clara hesitated. "We're fine, sir. Just walking to the next town." "The next town is 15 miles from here," the man said. "That's a long walk under this sun." Clara forced a small smile. "We'll manage." The man looked at her children, all of them thin and dusty, their faces red from the heat. His gaze softened. After a short silence, he said something that made Clara's heart jump. "Get in my wagon now." Clara froze. The children looked at her, waiting for her to decide. She didn't know this man, and she had learned to be careful. "Thank you, sir," she said politely, "but we don't want to trouble you." The man stepped out of his truck. He wasn't angry, only calm and firm. "Ma'am, this sun can make even strong men fall. You and those little ones won't last long out here." He opened the truck's door wider. "I'm not asking again. Get in. I've got water, food, and shade." Clara saw the dust rising behind them, the endless road ahead, and the way her children's lips were dry and cracked. Her oldest son, Eli, looked up at her with quiet hope. She took a deep breath and nodded. "All right. Thank you, sir." They climbed into the wagon. The air inside was cool, and there was a small basket with sandwiches, a jug of water, and some clean towels. Clara's children stared in wonder. The man started driving again. "Name's Mr. Reynolds," he said. "I own that ranch you passed a few miles back." Clara nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I'm Clara, and these are my kids, Eli, Sam, and little Lila." He glanced at them through the mirror. "Nice to meet you, Clara. Where are you folks heading?" Clara looked out the window. "I don't really know, sir. Just somewhere we can start again." Mr. Reynolds didn't reply for a while. He seemed to think deeply. Then, after a few minutes, he said, "Sometimes starting again needs a bit of help. Not everyone gets that help at the right time." When they reached his ranch, Clara was amazed. It was huge. Green fields, horses running freely, and workers moving around. The house in the middle looked warm and welcoming. Not like a rich man's mansion, but like a home built by someone who cared for every brick. Mr. Reynolds parked the truck and turned to them. "You and your kids can rest here for the night. The barn's got clean hay and a roof that won't leak." Clara's eyes widened. "Sir, we can't," he interrupted gently. "You can. And you will. I don't let children sleep on roads." She thanked him quietly, and tears filled her eyes, though she quickly wiped them away. Inside the barn, it was cool and smelled of fresh straw. The children laughed softly for the first time in days as they drank cold water and ate the food Mr. Reynolds brought them himself. Clara sat by the door, watching the golden sunset spread across the fields. It felt almost like peace. That night, while her children slept, Mr. Reynolds came to check on them. "Everything all right in here?" he asked softly. "Yes, sir," Clara said. "I don't know how to thank you." He nodded slowly. "You don't have to. Just promise me something." "What's that?" "Don't lose hope again. Life can be cruel, but you've got 3 reasons to keep walking." "I can see that," she smiled faintly. "I'll try." The next morning, the ranch woke up with the sounds of horses and roosters. Clara helped in the kitchen, washing dishes and preparing breakfast. The workers were kind and treated her with respect. When Mr. Reynolds saw her working, he asked, "You always this hard-working?" Clara looked embarrassed. I just wanted to help a little for what you did for us, he chuckled. Well, the ranch could use someone like you. I lost my cook 2 weeks ago. Would you stay on for a while? I'll pay fair wages and your kids will have a roof. Clara stared at him, unable to speak. Are you serious? Dead serious, he said, smiling slightly. You'll be helping me more than you know. Her children ran out from the barn just then, laughing and chasing each other. They looked different, alive, bright, free. Clara felt tears again, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, she said softly. I don't know what to say. He tipped his hat. Say yes. That'll do. And she did. Over the next few weeks, Clara worked hard in the ranch house. She cleaned, cooked, and helped organize supplies. Mr. Reynolds kept his word, paying her fairly and treating her with quiet respect. Her children began to smile more each day, helping with small tasks and playing with the ranch animals. The workers grew fond of them too. Some evenings they'd sit around the fire, sharing food and stories. For the first time in years, Clara felt like she belonged somewhere again. But there was something she didn't understand about Mr. Reynolds. He was kind, yet distant. He never talked much about himself. Some said he'd once lost his own family years ago, in an accident that changed him forever. Maybe that was why he had stopped talking to people beyond business. Still, whenever he saw Clara's children laughing, a small, hidden smile appeared on his face, one that told a story no one else knew. One evening, after dinner, Mr. Reynolds called Clara outside. The sun was setting behind the hills and the sky was painted orange and gold. Clara, he said quietly, I've been thinking, you and your kids. You've brought life back to this old ranch. I want to show you something tomorrow. What is it? She asked, curious. He just smiled. You'll see. It's time for me to keep another promise I made long ago. Clara didn't understand what he meant, but the calm look in his eyes made her trust him. As the sun went down and the stars began to shine above the ranch, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. She didn't know that the next morning, what Mr. Reynolds would reveal would change not only her life, but also everyone's on that land. It was a surprise no one could have expected. The next morning came with the soft sound of horses and the smell of breakfast in the air. The sun was rising over the ranch, lighting up the fields in gold. Clara woke up early as always. She fixed her children's hair, prepared their small breakfast, and started her chores. Everything felt peaceful, yet her heart was curious about what Mr. Reynolds had said the night before. When she stepped out of the kitchen, she saw him already waiting near his truck. He looked the same as always, strong, calm, and thoughtful, but there was something different in his eyes today. A kind of quiet excitement, like he was planning something special. Morning, Clara, he said with a warm smile. Morning, sir, she replied. You said you wanted to show me something today? He nodded. Yes, ma'am. Get the kids ready. We're going for a short drive. Clara quickly called Eli, Sam, and Lila. The children ran to the truck, happy for a chance to go somewhere new. They all climbed in, and Mr. Reynolds drove them down a dirt road that stretched past the far edge of his land. The sky was wide and blue, and the air was fresh. After a few minutes, the road turned toward a quiet field that Clara had never seen before. The grass was tall and green, and in the middle of it stood a small wooden house. It looked old but strong. The porch was shaded, and there were flowers growing near the steps. Clara looked at the house, confused. It's beautiful, she said softly. Does someone live here? Mr. Reynolds shook his head. Not for a long time. This was my parents' first home. It's been empty for years. He parked the truck and stepped out. Come on, he said, opening the door for her. I want to show you around. They walked up to the porch. The boards creaked under their feet, and Clara could smell the faint scent of pine wood. Inside, sunlight came through the windows, painting warm shapes on the floor. There was a small kitchen, a living room with an old rocking chair, and 3 bedrooms. Clara turned to him. It's lovely, sir. But why are we here? Mr. Reynolds smiled. Because it's time someone called this place home again. She blinked. Home? Yes, he said. I've been thinking for a while now. You and your children need a place that's yours. A roof, a door that closes at night, and a bit of land to call your own. You've worked hard, Clara, honest work, loyal work. And your kids, they've brought light back into this ranch. Clara's heart started beating faster. Mr. Reynolds, I don't understand. He looked at her with kind eyes. You will. I'm giving you this house, Clara. It's yours now. For a moment, she just stared at him, her mouth slightly open.
Sir, you can't mean that.
I can't take something like this. It's too much. He chuckled softly. Too much? You've given me more than you realize. I was a lonely man for a long time, living with ghosts of the past. But when you and your children came, you reminded me what family feels like. I can't give you back the years you lost, but I can give you a new start. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. You've already done so much for us. Food, work, kindness. We don't deserve more. Mr. Reynolds smiled gently. Deserving's got nothing to do with it. Sometimes life takes, sometimes it gives. This time it's your turn to receive. Eli, who had been standing near the doorway, suddenly asked in a small voice, Does that mean we can stay here, sir? Forever? Mr. Reynolds looked at the boy and nodded. Yes, son. Forever, if that's what your mama wants. Lila clapped her hands with joy and Sam laughed out loud. They ran around the house, touching the walls and peeking into rooms. Mommy, look. There's a real bed. And a window just for me. Clara wiped her tears quickly so her children wouldn't see her cry. Mr. Reynolds, she whispered, how can I ever repay you? He looked out the window at the open fields. You already have. You brought laughter back into a place that had forgotten what it sounded like. They spent the rest of the morning cleaning and opening the windows. Dust floated in the light, but it didn't matter. The house was alive again. Mr. Reynolds helped fix a loose door while Eli swept the porch proudly like a little man. Sam carried small boxes of tools and Lila followed Clara everywhere, humming softly. By noon, the house felt warm and full of life. Clara stood at the doorway watching her children play outside. Mr. Reynolds leaned against the porch post beside her. They look happy, he said quietly. They are, she answered. I can't remember the last time I saw them smile like this. He nodded. That's worth more than anything money can buy. There was a long, comfortable silence. Then Clara said softly, You know, I never believed people like you existed anymore. Kind people. I thought the world had forgotten how to care. Mr. Reynolds turned to her with a half smile. Maybe the world hasn't forgotten. Maybe it's just waiting for the right moment to remind us. Days passed and the little house became their home. Clara planted flowers by the porch, just like the ones that had been there before. The children started school in the nearby town, and every evening they came home running across the field. The ranch hands often visited, bringing gifts or food, saying the ranch felt livelier since Clara and her kids arrived. Mr. Reynolds visited often too, bringing fresh fruit or helping fix things. But each time he stayed humble, never expecting thanks. For him, seeing them happy was enough. One evening near sunset, Clara found him sitting by the fence watching the horses run. She walked up quietly and sat beside him. You've given us everything, Mr. Reynolds, she said softly, but I still don't understand why. He smiled at her, his eyes far away. Years ago, when I was a young man, I lost someone dear to me. My wife. She used to say something before she passed. If you ever see someone lost, help them find their way home. I couldn't do much back then. But when I saw you and those children walking down that dusty road, it felt like her voice was speaking again. Clara listened silently, her eyes glistening. She must have been a wonderful woman, he nodded. She was, and she'd be proud today. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind was gentle, the sky was painted in gold and pink, and the world felt peaceful. Thank you, Clara said finally, her voice breaking softly. For everything. He tipped his hat again, smiling the same quiet smile he always did. You're welcome, ma'am. Just promise me you'll keep going. Keep smiling. Keep living. She nodded, unable to speak. Time passed, and the little house became known across the town. People would often tell the story of the wealthy rancher who helped a homeless mother and her children find a new beginning. Some didn't believe it at first. It sounded too kind to be real. But those who visited the ranch saw the truth for themselves. The flowers growing bright by the porch, the laughter of children in the fields, and a man who had learned that wealth means nothing if it can't make a difference. One Sunday afternoon, as the town gathered for a small fair, Clara and her children stood beside Mr. Reynolds. The townspeople thanked him, calling him generous, but he simply shook his head. I didn't save them, he said. They saved me. The crowd fell silent at his words, touched by the honesty in them. Clara smiled quietly beside him, knowing what he meant. That evening, when they returned home, the stars came out early. Clara tucked her children into bed, then stepped outside. She looked up at the sky and whispered a prayer of gratitude, not just for the house or the food, but for the chance to start again. Far across the field, she could see Mr. Reynolds's ranch lights glowing softly in the distance. A calm feeling filled her heart. She knew they were no longer alone. And as the cool night wind blew through the grass, she realized that sometimes miracles don't come with loud sounds or shining lights. Sometimes they arrive in the form of a quiet man in a dusty hat, stopping his wagon for strangers on the side of a lonely road. That single act of kindness had changed everything, and it reminded everyone who heard their story that no matter how dark life seems, a small moment of compassion can light the way home.